Okay, welcome back. It is early January 1876, which is where we left off some months ago now. I do apologise for that. There's been a few reasons for why it's been such a long time this time round, and the tempo will pick up, I promise you. The campaign's going on right to the end, but I had some problems with my kind of headset, gaming headset mic, and I think it was like a software update. I use a lot of like freeware software and stuff like that, and I've got a pretty basic setup, and sometimes it takes you kind of hours to iron these things out. In addition to that, if I'm completely frank as well, I've kind of got eyes bigger than my belly in terms of some of the games. Like, I took on a couple of AGO multiplayer games. I was already playing one, Pride Nations game, where I was Russia. I took on another one, which is an 1880 campaign, which I had mentioned I was keen, and actually it was someone that was watching the campaign that suggested he fancied joining an 1880 multiplayer game, and I'm playing the Ottomans in that, which is really fortuitous. But yeah, and also a Revolution of the Siege game, and it just took up kind of the gaming time that I would have spent playing this. I was kind of, committed to passing turns in those games, and the tempo was such that it just meant I had to kind of put this on the back burner temporarily. What I'm going to try and do, I think, is do more frequent, shorter videos. One of the problems with videos that last an hour is they end up taking more than an hour to process because my machine is made out of potatoes. So yeah, I think maybe shorter videos is where it's at. It means that I can kind of, I don't commit my PC to then having to process a video for an hour or so after the video is kind of finished. So we'll probably just kind of commit to one turn this time round, and then I'll try and sort of see how we get on with keeping the tempo up with kind of fewer videos. We left off in early January 1876. Not a bad time to leave off, really. 76 is going to be a big year. I think we're going to be looking at kind of like the shit-canning of Abdulaziz by the elites. He's definitely on the clock now, and he will be eventually, ultimately, I think initially there'll be Murad V. I might be wrong there, but Murad V, his nephew, will become Sultan for a period of time, I think about 6 months, and we'll talk a bit about him when he comes to power, and then ultimately he'll be supplanted by Abdul Hamid. I did play around with the files to try and give Abdul Hamid diplomat income. It's only going to really be clear as to whether that worked once he comes into power. So we'll see what happens, sort of thing. But yeah, and we also left off in a bit of a stalemate, really. We're in a kind of, it's really a kind of forever war with Austria, and this most recent incarnation of the conflict has resulted in a bit of a stalemate, a little bit of mission creep, particularly on the kind of eastern flank, the right flank, if you like, where we've really pushed up into Bukovina, and there was an engagement in Chernovitz. We get 2 national moral points for that. The night exchange, we sort of chunked them for like 40,000 casualties, only take, under 10,000 ourselves. So we're in pretty good shape, and as a kind of bit of a reminder, because it has been a bit of time, that really the war plan this time round is to try and wear the Austrians down, try and kind of open up opportunities for manoeuvre on the basis of attrition, really. And that's basically getting a really good exchange rate in terms of engagements, getting them to the point where they just can't really recover their losses, and then begin to sort of open up opportunities for manoeuvre, and then really look at a long-term occupation of a large chunk of the Austrian Empire as the basis for a kind of peaceful northern frontier. So we're going to be trying to look to return the frontier to something, something along the lines of the kind of 18th century, really. So we're definitely going to be dialing the clock back in terms of history. So far, the war's been going good, and there's not been any kind of major emergencies, but we are in a little bit of a stalemate. And I think a lot of that is because of the mission creep. Anyway, on the right, we're going to be bringing the 5th and 3rd armies back from Bukovina to Moldavia to just kind of try and hold something resembling a continuous front line. In the centre, then, we've got the 1st and 6th armies. Are going to be holding position in Sofia, looking to counter any Austrian moves, and the Austrians have got a bit of a doom stack in Agosta, so we're anticipating possibly a move down into kind of towards Sofia. And the real strength we've got is on our left. We've got 3 commands then: 4th Army under Osman Nuri, 8th under Abdi Pasha, and then the 2nd under Fuad Pasha. We're going to be bringing Hussein Avni back. Now, he's basically got a portion of the strategic reserve, which we pushed up unnecessarily to Novi Pazar. We're going to bring the strategic reserve back, or a portion of it, to Adrianople, or Edirne, and we're going to be trying to take Hussein Avni out of the action. The reason for that is I'm not sure how the game maps. We're going to assume, he is the Vizier at this point, the Grand Vizier, I believe, and he's involved in some kind of intrigue you know, in Constantinople, and he is instrumental, as I understand it, in the toppling of Abdulaziz. To that end, you know, fairly realistically, we're going to kind of take him out of the action. We're going to be assuming that he's going to be involved in some sort of political intriguing. And I'm just worried that if he's in control of an entire stack, whether that causes some kind of like really unforeseen kind of outcome. It's going to be a fairly boring turn. We're going to be putting him back. Other than that, we're going to be holding our position for the most part. All of our stacks are activated, I believe. Save for Abdul Karim Nadir. He's got 8 days, and then we're looking at sort of 5 days for the 5th Army up in Pasha. But we're not going to really be taking advantage of that. We're going to be trying to sort of like pull back a little bit or hold our current posture and react to the Austrians. That's the key thing. We want the Austrians to kind of set up the plays for us. My anticipation is the Austrians are going to look to another siege of Sarajevo. That hasn't worked out for them so far. We're well positioned to respond to that, or any kind of push through Belgrade, or indeed, we're also well positioned to support any really, really serious push in the centre, which is a real possibility because the Austrians have got really significant concentration there. And then on the right flank, we're just going to be looking to pull back, I think, hold our position for the time being. The Austrians do have considerable forces on the right flank that we can see. But we want to make sure that we kind of concentrate, that we don't want this position to become kind of enveloped, and as it is, it's a little bit vulnerable, so we're going to kind of pull back. That's pretty much it. So no big kind of military actions. We've still got the fleet in the Bay of Venice, and we're going to hold our position there, I think, probably for another fortnight. They're not, the Austrians don't have much in the way of fleet. They've got a cruiser division. This is probably a raiding division. I don't know what their fleet technology is like at this stage. There's a good chance that we have kind of eclipsed them. We're going to hold a position. The position of this fleet is really good for just basically gathering intelligence, providing us with any information in terms of transit from sort of northern Italy or indeed the Dalmatian coastline of Austrian troops. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to check the economy really quickly. There's a good chance. No, I actually have kind of done economic admin. We're looking like we're in good shape there. Okay, let's check our assets balance real quick. And that looks nice. No red boxes, no kind of real concerns. We're still sort of pushing to export capital through investments into China. We'll hold off for another term. I mean, at the moment, our kind of running cost for our economy is 1,500. So we always want to make sure that we've got about that. Probably ideally 2,000 in the kitty to run our operating costs for our economy. Tax brackets are fairly good. We've got to keep them as they are. Inflation's nice and low. We're still, I mean, economic growth is not kind of, is not as rapid as it was kind of, let's say, 5-10 years ago, but it was inevitable that it was going to plateau a little bit. And we're happy with that. The Ottoman economy is definitely in much better shape than it was in real life. The main concern, of course, is coal. We run a kind of terminal coal sort of deficit, and that's not going to change anytime soon, frankly. That might change if we kind of control parts of Austria. We'll have to see that, because I mean, I'm not sure to what extent we can actually exploit, if we're militarily occupying parts of Austria, to what extent we can economically exploit it, unless they've already built coal mines. And of course, you remember the few coal mines they had we destroyed in an earlier campaign, so we might not get too much from occupation. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for this turn. I'm going to put you on pause. We'll pass turn, and we'll see you on the other side. And then we'll probably wrap that up. We'll talk a bit about what's happened throughout the turn, and maybe lay a bit of a plan out for the next couple of turns as well. Because this is kind of like the first video back after a long time, I can talk a bit about what the next couple of moves are going to look like, I think. And then we'll kind of play through those next couple of moves over the next couple of videos. So see you on the other side. Okay, welcome back then. It's late January 1876. Turn has been passed. Abdulaziz is still on the throne. Just seeing what kind of decrees and laws we've got. Nothing that we want to spend any money on just yet. No significant developments, really. I mean, no big engagements. We wanted to hold our posture, give our forces time to recover. One thing that has happened that, was a rubbing anxiety that I had anyway. The Austrians have pushed down into Bucharest with a considerable force and are besieging Bucharest. They haven't completely enveloped the 3rd and 5th armies. There is still a transit route to Constanta if we wanted to cross that. Now, the only downside of getting to Constanta is in order for them to counter-attack into Bucharest, we're crossing a river line. My instinct is actually to keep our forces there and to conduct a counter-offensive from Moldavia towards Bucharest with support of 2 of the armies from the centre of Plevna, providing kind of sort of, march to the sound of the guns, support across the river, that could be an option as opposed to actually, bringing everything south of the river and then trying to counterattack across it. To that end, we're going to move the First Army then to Plevna and also the 6th. That's 8 days of peace, I believe, yeah. Neither of them are activated. We're now in a turn with no activated commands. Bear in mind also, late January, the weather is hideous, so we're going to have some disorganization and also lengthened marches as well. We're going to sort of keep our powder dry, I think, in Moldavia. Hold our forces for the time being. There is a depot in Constanta. Now, of course, the Austrians could very easily break a force off and besiege Constanta. That wouldn't be the worst thing. That would split their force so that they would still be able to support each other. But so I think we're going to hold our position there. We're going to move up towards Plevna and begin to kind of prepare for a counteroffensive, possibly in the spring. We want to try and organise a set piece. We've got as much support as possible. These forces comprise just under 100,000 men apiece, so we're going to be moving in with about just under 400,000 men, maybe 375,000 men, something like that. We have a new commander, new 2-star activated in Constantinia, which is good news. Now, most of our field commands have a 2-star commanding the Imperial Guard kind of element core, if you like, within the army stack, all with the exception of the 2nd Army under Fuad Pasha. To that end, then, we're going to move our new commander. He's pretty good, by the way. Dervish Ibrahim Pasha. Like, obviously not sensational starting stats, but he's got good abilities. Ilan, strong disciplinarian. These are kind of hallmarks of someone who could be an effective, aggressive commander down the road. So we want to try and sort of cultivate and develop Dervish Ibrahim Pasha as best we can. Let's bring him up to the 2nd Army then. 14 days, we're sticking on rails. And we're happy with that. Nothing going on the left. So the Austrian forces that are there are looking to really just kind of hold their position. To that end, I might move one of the commands to the centre. Maybe the 8th Army under Abdi Pasha. That's 96,000 men. I wonder if we've got the route points to actually, no, we don't have route points to move an entire command. So that's the 8th Army. How long will it take him to march to Sofia? 17 days, that's not good, is it? Only 45% chance of a speed march as well, forced march. It still might make sense to do that because we're going to have nothing in the centre basically. So maybe just hold fast on the left. Obviously, I don't like falling into the kind of routine of having our adversary dictate the tempo, but if they want to concentrate in one kind of area really, really heavily, that's fine. Bear in mind that they're kind of technically enveloped in this position, so they're going to struggle to bring supplies down, in theory. We'll see. Yeah, we've got like 100% military control to their rear. Although actually they can source supply from Belgrade. Maybe that's, yeah. It is tempting to move one of the armies up to sort of Drobeta, but then in doing that, we're much more spread thin, and that is a big concentration. I don't like the idea of being spread too thin. I like the idea of having at least 2 stacks on an adjacent tile. Because if they move against Drobeta, what if we moved the 8th Army? It's 12 days, that is better. At least then they get the support. Let's do that. We'll do a sustained attack, so we don't know what's going to be there. 12 days, by then both of these commands will be in Plevna. They should be able to conduct support in this little hinge kind of confluence here across the river, I hope. And it'll be through kind of Belgrade, so we might even be able to pick up the supply wagons en route. And of course, we don't know what's going to be moved into Belgrade in the meantime. So that's it. The best form of defense is attack, so I'm a little bit tempted to try and make some play. Or we can't do anything with the 2nd Army because we want to keep him in place for the arrival of the new 2-star. We have got the 4th Army. And with all that concentration on the right, my thinking is they're going to be a little bit thin on the ground on the left. To that end, we're not going to move into Sofia. We're going to move The 8th Army up then to Drobeta, 12 days, through Belgrade. We'll hold a position south of Belgrade in Zvornik with the 2nd Army, and we'll move the 4th on a kind of spoiling operation. Kato, 19 days, that's it. Yeah, it's because of the weather. It might actually just be best to hold fast. For now. I mean, they're both activated, but that doesn't mean they have to move. They're well supplied there. And yeah, we're looking at heavy snow, basically. Yeah, the weather's not great. So I think we'll wait for the weather to clear up, and then we'll look to conduct a kind of spoiling move in the left. Really just kind of weaken the forces that they've got there. You know, I mean, there's 3 regular formations plus supply. Good chance they're corps-sized formations. There might be 3 divisions, which sort of comprises about a corps. But if we can take them out without leaders, if we can kind of make moves against them before they receive reinforcements and so on, it makes sense to do that. We've got reasonably good concentration on the left. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. We are going to bring the fleet back now, only because we don't want the fleet sort of sitting... let's see what they can see up there. Well, there we go. So we've got another Austrian formation. 3 crosses indicates corps-sized forces. Duly noted, etc. So we'll bring the Imperial fleet back then. We'll set to interception in the unlikely event that we kind of see anything en route. That's pretty much it. Let's just check our prestige. You can always see, so structure, loss, and capture. The Austrians, by the way, did send us a peace deal, but it's rubbish. It's like reparations for 10 years. We've been there, done that. You know, kind of got the T-shirt. So what that'll probably amount to is them paying it for 3 years, rearming, re-equipping their forces, and then going again. And we don't want that. Let's have a look through our kind of... so there's no actions, but there's... My hunch is it's just the Austrian move. I don't know. I mean, we haven't lost anything though, have we? They already... I can't think what it is. Let's read through the reports, because we've kind of lost a structure somewhere. And these are the things that if you ignore, they could be like colonial raids or something like that. You end up ignoring it, it snowballs into something bigger, and then, you know... Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. There's nothing in the military reports, so I don't know what that is. We'll kind of keep an eye on that, though, because obviously that is a concern. If it develops into something kind of, if it's some kind of provincial colonial revolt that's resulting in us losing a trade station or something like that, we don't want that to develop into something decent around economically. Exports are staying up, slightly below the revenue that we're generating through domestic market sales, but almost on parity. 1,800 domestic market sales, 1,728 exports. That's good. I mean, that means, you know, we're exporting more high yield items as well, because it's 357 merchandise as opposed to 435, and almost the same value. So we're shifting high yield items, which is good. Imports 864. Coal is stable. Assets balance looks good, and I have already set economic cabinet for the next turn. So to that end, the military moves are made. We're in late January. I'm going to pass turn, and the next video will pick up in early Feb, basically. So we're going to look to kind of stabilize the right a little bit, bring up forces to prepare for a counter-attack, maybe in March or April, depending on what the weather's like. Maybe before. I mean, if this supply situation gets desperate, or if the Austrians break a force off and besiege Constanza and look to fully develop this, then that will force our hand. We could look to maybe conduct a move from Plevna to Constanza, combined with a move from Moldavia to Constanza. So that's an option. And we're going to try and bolster up the centre by conducting a move through Belgrade and then Drobeta. This is probably a slightly briefer video than previous ones. As I say, I'm going to try and do briefer videos, more frequent, and shan't leave it 3 months again. My mic's fixed now, and I'm sure I'll be able to find kind of, you know, 20 minutes or so to make a video once, you know, once a week at least. So until next time, I'll see you in late February, in a week or so. Cheers.